I get a lot of recommendations from you guys in the comment section about shows or movies that I should cover on the channel. A lot of times this leads to certain videos or topics that I would have never covered or even watched, and that's one of the best parts about doing all this, but over the last few months, there's been one show that I've been asked to cover more than anything else, and that's the show From. Now, if you haven't seen the show or even heard of it, then don't worry, don't go anywhere, you're in exactly the right place, because the next
2 hours, your ass is mine!
are going to be dedicated to me convincing you that From is the best show that you aren't watching right now, and it rightfully deserves to be your next binge watch. The show was on my radar for a long time. I had seen a few fan theory TikToks and stuff like that when I was scrolling, heard that this was all about mystery and horror, and I knew it was right up my alley. I honestly don't know what took me so long to start it, but I did, and I absolutely don't regret it. If you're a fan of shows like Lost or Dark, Yellow Jackets, even The Walking Dead, then From is also right up your alley. The rest of this video is going to contain spoilers for only the first episode of the show. I'll give you my analysis and recap of the first episode, and from there on, the decision will be yours if I haven't already convinced you to watch the show already. So turn around from this strange tree in the middle of the road, grab your talismans, and get ready to survive the night as we journey into the world of From. The episode starts off in a small town, when a familiar face starts ringing a bell. As he's walking through the town, there seems to be a few things off about this place, whether it's the rundown and flipped over cars, the way people are dressed, or the way each person keeps on touching this strange rock on their doors. Something, well actually everything about this place just seems off. There's clearly a town curfew, and one man isn't getting up from the bar to make it home, so his wife and daughter are left alone. The daughter goes upstairs to say her prayers when Grandma calls to her from outside the window. It's a weird place for Grandma to be. And then the little girl says that she doesn't even look like her grandma, but the old woman is cold and asks to come inside. So the little girl opens up the window, her mother behind her telling her not to do that, and then we see exactly why that is. Cue the intro.
What will be, will be.
And we meet the Matthews family. Jim, Tabitha, Julie, and Ethan. They're on some family road trip when they head off the highway in what will eventually be known as the biggest mistake of their lives. And they come across this tree in the middle of the road. It's strange that it's just this one big tree and no others, and then a whole murder of crows shows up, or is it?
An unkindness of ravens. That doesn't sound that bad, huh?
No, that still sounds pretty bad. Meanwhile, in the town, everybody gathers around the house that Grandma visited last night, and when the husband returns, he's greeted in a deserved but very unkind way by Sheriff Boyd. We get to see exactly what happened when Grandma came into the house, and it's also not very kind either. So the family turns around to get back on the highway, but come across the town that we saw in the beginning. Everybody again acts very strangely, but Boyd tells them to just keep on going and they should make their way back to the highway. So they continue up along the road, only to end up back in the town they started in. So they keep on going in a straight line, only to keep ending up in this old rundown town. Now, my initial theory surrounding this place was that it must have been some sort of place made by Surfshark VPN, because nobody knows where they are in this town, just like how nobody knows where you are when you use Surfshark VPN. Are you looking to watch shows like From, or really anything else out there, just to find that they aren't on any of your streaming services? Well, with Surfshark VPN, you can easily swap your location with a different country and see what the streaming services offer there. Are you worried that after this 75-day extension, you won't be able to doom scroll during the hours you're supposed to be asleep? Well, Surfshark can help you out there too. All of this is on top of the offer I've got for you, which is 4 extra months completely free if you use the link in the description, pinned comment, or by going to surfshark.com/thrifty. And there's no risk when trying Surfshark VPN because they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you want to get the best deals online, get cheaper flight tickets, safely browse the web from anywhere, watch this show From, then Surfshark is the VPN you're looking for. Check the link in the description, the pinned comment, or go to surfshark.com/thrifty for an additional 4 months absolutely free, and get to binge watching or doom scrolling, whatever works for you. Thanks to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video, and now, back to the town. Boyd and his deputy Kenny put out a set of spikes to stop the RV the next time around, planning on telling them that they're stuck in this town whether they like it or not, and if they aren't inside by the time night falls, then they probably won't survive. But this plan doesn't come to fruition, as another car comes in driving the opposite direction and runs the family off the road. Everyone is stuck or hurt, the sun is going down, and it's up to Boyd and everybody else to help the family, explain the situation, and make it back to town before dark, which is in about 45 minutes. So that's the gist of the first episode. I didn't fully explain everything or every scene because at the end of the day, I'm trying to convince you all to go and watch this show, so don't think that you can just go into the second episode. I promise you there's stuff I didn't cover. But I recently made a video about the best pilot episodes, or some of my personal favorite pilot episodes, and if I had seen this show when I made that video, this pilot would certainly be on that list. I just recently rewatched this episode with my parents just to kind of gauge their reactions to everything, and I think they were like the perfect audience to judge us on because they had never even heard of this show. In the opening scene, they were very confused about this town. They picked up immediately on like the 70s look of everything, on everyone touching the talismans at the door, and when Grandma attacked, they immediately thought vampire, which is honestly a pretty good guess. But this opening scene almost perfectly captures the entire essence of the show. You have a ton of questions about what's going on, you can sort of put 2 and 2 together for yourself and figure out the gist of what's going on, and then something absolutely crazy that you weren't expecting happens. This is like the main format of the show, which borrows a lot from the show Lost, but I'll get to more on that in a little bit. After the opening scene that I think very successfully hooks you into learning more about this town and this story, we cut to the Matthews family so that we, as an audience, get to see how the rules of this universe actually work. My parents were also under the impression that this was some sort of apocalyptic show like The Walking Dead, so when they found out that it wasn't and it was literally just this small place in this small town, they were even more intrigued, which was something I hadn't actually thought about on my first watch. I think that's more so because I knew the overall premise of the show, but they didn't, and the show still told them everything they needed to know, which is incredibly simple but incredibly effective writing in terms of a pilot episode. This is where we get to see how things actually work, which is a huge rule of writing, and that's show, don't tell. We get to see this family pass the same few spots as each loop goes around. We get to see how the talismans work and why they need to be kept firmly in place during the night. We get to see a lot of the tension between different families and different people without knowing the context or history that these people have. There's a lot of different threads dangling, but for a pilot episode, we do get a good amount of information while there's still questions left unanswered. Some of those we find out about more in this season. Some of them I'm still wondering about. So usually a big selling point when talking about a new show or movie is talking about who's in it, who's behind it, and all that good stuff. Well, as you can see, the main character of this show is Harold Perrineau. Hopefully I'm saying his name right, but most people recognize him as Michael from Lost. On top of that, the director of 16 of the 30 episodes is Jack Bender, who directed 43 episodes of Lost, a few episodes of Game of Thrones, The Sopranos, Alias, and a whole bunch of other stuff, so the guy knows what he's doing. And as for the writer and the creator of the show, he's done this. He wrote an episode of the Twilight Zone reboot that didn't do too well, and then some Disney movie I've never heard of, but he's the creator of From, and if he's got more stuff like this up his sleeve, then he's definitely somebody to keep your eye on. He's working on an animated Magic the Gathering show for Netflix, so that is also something to keep your eye on. So there's a pretty promising team behind the show and in front of the camera. There's another few recognizable faces in the cast, and a few people I've never heard of or who are new to the business who all do remarkable jobs in their roles. I also think that so much of this show and this story was inspired by Lost that this could be known as like the spiritual successor to that show. With just about every character, there's a similar or adjacent character that they could represent in Lost. Boyd is kind of like Jack, the person that everybody around looks up to lead them, even if they don't think they're the ones most fit to lead all these people. Jade is kind of like Sawyer. He's controversial and not very easily likable to others, but he opens up to the people around him eventually. Victor is like John Locke, who seems to know more than the audience ever does, but doesn't tell anybody what's going on. I'm not saying these characters are like one-to-one copies. They're all, in fact, very different from Jack, Sawyer, and Locke, but they fill similar roles in the story that all the Islanders did in Lost. This is, at the end of the day, an ensemble cast, and everybody has their part to play, so in that regard, any ensemble cast can really be compared to one another, but I think From does an excellent job at giving each character their unique traits. One character can hear the voices of the monsters, another has hallucinations of different things going on around him and seeing strange symbols. One character has been there for so long, they know things nobody else does, and the way these storylines all come together is incredibly fascinating and entertaining. But one of the main draws of the show, at least for me, are the discussions among fans and, of course, fan theories. If you've been around me or this channel a lot, then you know I'm a sucker for a good fan theory, and I'm especially a sucker for shows and movies that give the fans a lot of room to make their own theories. And that is most definitely the case when it comes to the show From. Now, I haven't looked up a whole lot of the fan theories just yet, because I'm still making my way through the show, but from the stuff that I have seen, I just can't wait to join in on those conversations. It was the same when it came to The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, and more recently, Severance, which is another show you should check out if you haven't already. So if you enjoy talking with other people and sharing your theories or hearing about other ones, then From is again the show for you. Now I have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's ratings. You've probably been told a bunch of times to go and watch something, but you look at the ratings and go, well, it's probably not as good as this person claims it is, and I used to think that way for like years and years of my life. I don't know what it is now, if I'm just getting older, or because I have friends who work on different things, or because I now do YouTube for a living, but I've become far less critical of things over the past like 2 years. I used to not watch anything unless it had like above an 8.5 on IMDb. I used to be that pretentious film bro who would count out anything that wasn't considered cinema. But guess what? If you enjoy something, you enjoy it, and that's all that freaking matters. Don't let anybody tell you a certain show or movie or book or whatever isn't good or worth your time if you enjoy it. I do not like The Walking Dead Season 8. Some people really liked that season. If you do, that's great for you. I wish I liked it, but I don't, and I don't think less of somebody's opinion if they do like it. So how does all this relate to From? Well, the show has a respectable score of a 7.8, which is good, don't get me wrong, but maybe not stop what you're doing right now and get right to watching it good. Some of the episodes don't have the highest of ratings, and I was a bit skeptical or hesitant to give the show a watch because of this. But from what I can gather, a lot of people who have rated these episodes really don't like the slow burn pacing and the slow drip of answers that the show gives you. When questions are asked, it might take until the next season to answer them. They might not even be answered by the time I'm making this video, but that's the point when it comes to these shows. You want the time to try and figure out the puzzle yourself. You want that time to discuss fan theories with other people, and if that's not your thing, then that's not your thing. And that's fine, but that very much is my thing, and I know it's a lot of other people's thing too. So these ratings don't exactly match a lot of the actual episodes. They're just given poor scores because of what was set up in the last episode or a few episodes ago hasn't been answered yet, in favor of delving deeper into the characters, which is also exactly what both Lost and The Walking Dead did. I remember a lot of people being really up in arms about The Walking Dead Season 2 because it became a character drama set during the zombie apocalypse, and it wasn't this survival horror thrill ride that a lot of people wanted. Lost would have the craziest reveals at the end of every episode, and then the next episode would be like a flashback about some vacation that Jack had where he got his tattoo. Does this mean that From is going to take the exact same route that Lost did? Because a lot of the questions posed in Lost never got proper answers, and I think the people behind From know this and have taken this into consideration. Some light spoilers for Season 1 ahead, so skip ahead like 10 seconds if you don't want to hear this, but the show addresses how the characters think all of this could just be a dream, or that they could really be dead in like the 4th episode of the show. That to me feels like they're already factoring in people's thoughts about Lost's ending into consideration, and saying very clearly, this isn't the answer. So if by this point in the video you're sold and you want to watch the show, let me know that in the comments below, and I look forward to talking with you all more about this show. Thanks for watching. You can click off the video, but if you still aren't sold, then let me tell you a few of the things that are in store in the 1st season of From. So they're in a town where they can't leave. Why not just walk it, right? Well, that's exactly what they do, even finding some other crazy shit in the process, but whatever higher powers there are, bring them right back into town, so there's really no way out. A girl can hear the voices of the monsters, telling her to do some absolutely horrible things, so she does them, but it doesn't let her or anybody else leave. These monsters also know the secrets of the past from every individual, something only they as individuals know. Victor is the guy who's been around the longest, since he was a child, and he notices that the trees move, and even these strange-looking trees that he calls faraway trees teleport you somewhere every time you go inside of them. The town has electricity, but how? The outlets don't work. There's no electrical wiring, there's no electrical poles in town, all the electricity just flows into the basements of the homes. There's all of this and so much more that I urge you to give this show a shot and see for yourself, because you might pick up on something nobody else is seeing, and you could unravel the mystery for yourself. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.